Well, good evening and welcome at last to everybody. Apologies for the technical difficulties. That means we're coming to you, what is it, probably almost a half an hour late. But everybody is still here. So I'm Eddie Shanahan, and it's my pleasure this evening to introduce you to four very, very interesting artists and craftspeople in the first of three special Meet the Maker events as part of the Craftlink project, developed by Offaly Local Development Company and Westmeath Community Development, in partnership with Leader in Finland. The overall project is funded through the Rural Development Leader Funded Programme. Our guests this evening are the captivating furniture designer and maker John Farrell from Esker Design, Jane Walsh, an alchemist in colour and engaging gift ideas from the Button Studio, Monica Daly, whose Heartwork skincare collection has evolved using secret recipes and natural ingredients, and Aisling Muller, a lens-based artist and founder of Life's Changing Landscape. I'm going to start with you, John, because this afternoon I was looking on your website and I came across this beautiful description of your inspiration from nature, the journeys of other craftspeople, past and present, and the simple joy of creating. What led you to become a craftsperson and a maker?
Yeah, that's a nice intro. I suppose my first kind of introduction to woodworking would have came through school. So say in second year, I would have chosen woodworking and technical drawing as the subjects to go forward with. So I actually remember my first woodworking class. We were kind of introduced to basic, say, woodworking tools, and we were assigned a project to make just a letter holder. And I have a vivid memory of just really enjoying the kind of marking out the accuracy, the process of, and just working with the timber as well. Like, I think it had, quite an effect on me. And I think that stayed with me. Say towards then the end of school, I kind of knew I wanted to work with my hands. I wanted to do something creative, and I knew I wanted to go into woodworking. So I suppose that kind of led me then to say when I kind of finished school, what I was going to do next. And I would have decided to do an apprenticeship here in town with a company, Flynn Brothers, who are still going. So I done a 4-year apprenticeship with them. And then that I kind of worked in a few other places. I stayed with them another 2 years and then worked in a few other joineries.
But the whole thing started in school.
Yeah, it would have. Yeah.
And Aisling, I came across a lovely statement on your website. Creativity belongs to us all. Did you have a similar experience in school? Were you encouraged from the very beginning through your schooling to be creative, to embrace creativity?
I think for me, I spent a lot of my childhood in books, and I think that was a place where I found myself, I guess. But within the schooling system, I actually ended up in home economics class for some reason instead of art. So I kind of came to it a bit later. And I don't know whether it was like I felt like I had to do something that was maybe more womanly and go and do the home economics aspect. I don't know what it was that drove me within that, but then certainly later then I came back to the creativity after that. But I definitely think that it's something that it's an innate ability, and whether you're using it for sewing, if you have a gift in that regard, which I didn't, it's as valid as in any other medium.
So you think creativity will out one way or the other?
It will. I mean, it comes out of you. It's in us. So it's like we choose how we dress every day, don't we? So.
What about you, Jane? Did you find you were encouraged to embrace your creativity? What was the catalyst or the moment that encouraged you to develop your business to where it is now?
Well, from start off with, I've always been creative, but I didn't know it. Opposite to you, I wasn't in books. I hated books. I was dyslexic. So my art journey started by not doing Irish for after third year and having to go up to the art room to waste those hours. So I figured out that I was actually good at it. And then I did a portfolio to keep occupied and applied to NCAD, not thinking I'd get in. And all of a sudden I did get in. So that was how I got into college, not knowing that I wanted to go that route. And then
that was at third level.
That was second school.
If you take that and excuse the gender in this, but show me the boy and I'll show you the man. So would you have preferred that creativity was introduced earlier in the school curriculum?
Yes, I mean, I was always into art, and there was always art around me and at home and everything. But it was just the school structure didn't suit me. And then it's only when I got to college I realized that actually, hang on, this is allowed. You're allowed to be like this. You're allowed to be this way, and it's enjoyed, or to flourish in it. But I waltzed into NCAD thinking I wanted to do fashion, thinking in high heels, waltzed in, and in NCAD they do 1 year which is core, which they do everything. So you try a bit of everything. And I fell in love with clay. So I waltzed in high heels, clueless, and then I waltzed out in Timberland boots, covered in clay, loving it. So I think you find yourself and you find your creative, you kind of power, and my strength was in clay and that kind of form. So yeah.
Monica, there's really two parts to your business. There's the Heartworks slate where Maurizio, your partner, makes beautiful pieces for the home in reclaimed slate. But tonight we're going to talk about the skincare side of it.
Yeah.
How did you start? Did you come from that creative background in school? How did you make your way to where you are now, this wonderful naturally based skincare collection?
Yeah, well, as you say, we were already doing the slate, and Mauricio was, and I was very involved with that, with his work, and then just about 8 or 9 years ago, I wanted a piece of the action. I wanted to do my own thing, and a sister of mine in the States, Antonia, I think she might be listening in today. Antonia has a very successful soap business, and I just thought to myself, wouldn't it be great if I could make some soap? And I can do it. If my sister can do it, I can do it. And she gave me great encouragement, and I just went ahead.
And some of her secret recipes. She became your research and development department.
She did. She gave me my first recipe. I have since made my own. I've moved on to skincare, and I still have the soap and the shampoo bars, but I do creams, face creams, body butters, hand creams, and they're all my own recipes. But that recipe, that initial recipe, and that support from her was vital.
And that got you started.
Really got me started. Yeah.
Jane, I'm going to come back to you there, because we're talking here now about the collection evolving.
Yeah.
What's your creative process or your inspiration?
It's color. Can you guess? It's color. I actually started Button Studio because I couldn't find anything. I had a shop and I wanted to find something on the market. I couldn't find what I wanted, so I started creating it. But I actually started Button Studio with sweets. So instead of buttons, I was using sweets in the resin, and I was encapsulating sweets. But that wasn't good for my waistline, and it wasn't. It didn't hit the spot. So the first time I used my grandmother's button tin box, and the first button dropped, they all clicked into place, and the memories of buttons and the turning ordinary objects into something special, that was what really kind of got it. So I paint with buttons. I use the colors, and that's kind of telling a story.
And you do really three different things, don't you? You have a gallery collection, which is ready to wear buttons, if you like. And then you also take commissions from people, and you have special gift ideas as well, which of course is very relevant for the time of year. Where do you get the most satisfaction?
Packaging it up and sending it off and getting the email saying it's amazing. Or when I do custom pieces, I interact with the customer, and I get every single bit of information out of them I can that is relevant. Even if it's not, I throw it all in there, mix it up, and then I create something that is beautiful and I am happy with, and I send it off. And before I send it off, I'm so excited. I usually send a photograph to the customer just to check that they're happy with it, and they always are. And then when they see it in real life, the reaction is what makes me happy. Yeah.
And if people peer very carefully at the screen, you can see some of Jane's pieces there on the front. You can also see this beautiful. This is the Orca Chair, and I love the name, but there's a special meaning to it. So tell us a little bit about the Orca Chair.
Yeah, well, the Orca Chair, the name of the chair comes from the orca whale. So the backrest is kind of the sculptural shape is based on the tail of the orca descending into the ocean. So yeah, and then the material itself, the wood, would be kind of sustainably sourced timber. That chair is ash. I have an oak chair that would have come from Winfeld oak. So that's locally sourced. So the oak itself could be 120, 150 years old that it would have used it from. So straight away, there's just a lot of history just in the material for the chairs. And it's kind of nice to see the full cycle of seeing the chair or seeing the tree and then seeing it planked and then use the material and then making the chair out of it. And then it becomes like something somebody can invest in. And it's like an heirloom piece. So there's a nice kind of continuation there.
And you use special techniques to bring out the grain in the wood, don't you, when you're working the planks? To enhance it, you know, because I can see every single.
Well, no, that would be just the kind of natural beauty of the wood. You know, there's it would be sanded and I sculpted and I sanded, but that's an oil finish, like it's a natural oil finish. But the wood itself is just to look at it, it's so pleasing to the eye. Like that would be just the natural grain.
And in terms of colors, I've seen different colors in your portfolio. They're just simply working with different woods.
There's kind of like ash will have a pale kind of appearance, and then there's oak is kind of richer, and there's darker kind of woods you can use. Something I kind of tried with one of the ash chairs I made is I bleached it, which it gives it kind of a really surreal kind of bone white, like a really natural kind of color. So that's something that's interesting as well.
And of course the chair is almost the centerpiece of this display, and it's so visible. But you also are now making some beautiful jewelry boxes as well. Tell us a little bit about those.
Yeah, so this box here, this is entitled Sand Dunes. So the box is handcrafted, and it's designed as an heirloom box. So I suppose the way I see it is it's like a special place for, say, kind of precious jewelry or family heirlooms, like a nice place to store it. And also I kind of see it as something that can be left, say a mother has a collection of jewelry, she can kind of leave it to a daughter, and it's there's that, it's
pass it on,
it's passed on. Yeah, I suppose I would see I'd see the work like and my furniture like as investment pieces, something that it might be a high initial kind of price, like, but they're going to last through the generations, so it's an investment. That's how I would kind of approach all my work, really.
Monica, from natural woods to natural ingredients, I didn't know whether I could eat your products or put them on my face this morning when I was reading through them. Avocado, all sorts of beautiful oils, coconut.
Yeah, it's all animal-based product. Yeah, there's no. Sorry, not
plant-based.
Sorry, I meant to say
the other way around. We'll rewind.
Scrap that. Yeah, it's all plant-based. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just this great. I'm really into the healing power of plants. They're there to offer us amazing benefits for our skin, for our health, and I've always been interested in that. And so it's with pleasure I work with these oils and essential oils. And, I use calendula and nettles in my shampoo bar, calendula in my body butters and my hand creams. All the oils, the sweet almond, the apricot kernel, the coconut, the kukui nut.
You're getting hungry already.
Yeah.
What's your favorite ingredient?
My favorite ingredient myself. Oh, okay. Yeah. Calendula oil.
Why is that?
Well, I make the calendula myself, the calendula oil myself. I go out every day in the summertime and I pick the petals from the flowers, the ones that are beginning to wilt, and I bring them in, I dry them for a few months, and then I put them into oil and I leave it on the windowsill in a sunny part so it's kind of a process, and I have this connection with it. And calendula oil is just fantastic. I just use it all the time on my own skin, and it's a really healing plant, and I even think it's a little bit of this, must be some sun protection in there as well, because I never burn when I'm in the sun. And I'd say that's my favorite. Yeah.
And you mentioned nettle there a moment ago. What's that good for?
Nettle is I put it into the shampoo bar. It's really good for people that might have a problem with hair loss. It's
I'm
also
a bit late getting this advice.
yeah. It's also very good for people that might have kind of itchy, irritated
Scalp,
scalp,
yeah.
and it leaves your hair healthy and shiny.
Coming up to Christmas, do you find that people self-gift as well as buy gifts for other people?
Yes, and a lot of my customers would be buying for themselves. And coming up to Christmas, there's that gift element as well. I've got so much skincare now. I can make a vast variety of gift sets from, and different price points
And
as well.
we've actually got some of them there, front and center, don't we?
Yeah, I have this one here. This is a shaving gift set for
so
men.
for men as well.
Yeah.
And you've got the old razor blades and
The
all
old
in
razor
there, I
blade,
see.
yeah, the razor and the blades, and then the brush. And I have just another gift set here with just body butter, facial oil cleanser, face cream, and a lip balm.
Very nice,
Yeah.
nicely packaged as well.
Yeah.
It's amazing just listening to the stories of the natural ingredients as well, isn't it? It's amazing how we've come back to those natural things, and we've come to appreciate the craftsmanship that goes into making products like you guys do.
Yeah.
And all of the surveys are saying consumers now put great value and worth on that.
Yeah.
Aisling, you're in a slightly different space. You're a lens-based artist.
The camera has gone in a slightly different space also.
Oh, the camera has indeed gone into a slightly different space, but hopefully people can still hear us. And I'm sure the camera should probably come back of its own volition, but maybe not.
Yeah.
There we are.
We're a bit fuzzy.
Come back there and see. I can be a cameraman as well. Multi-talented. My goodness, they'll have me back. Before I had to go and fix the camera, Aisling, we were going to talk about you're a lens-based artist. You're an amazing photographer. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen such engaging pictures. But you're also a performance artist. Tell us a little bit about performance art.
Well, performance art and the way I use it is probably I guess every performance artist finds their own way with it. And the way that I've chosen to use it is I've chosen to use it and incorporate it with my photography work. So whether that's going to be a live video where I'm doing live video action, I'm usually dressed like this. This is my uniform, my working uniform at the moment. And I pop myself within the natural scene. So very like you as well, I feel connected to the nature. I find myself within that space. And I just allow myself to be very free within that natural space and allow a spontaneous kind of evolvement of how I feel and how I like to move and interact with the space. And I guess so for me, the performance practice is very much fed by the environment. It's led by the environment that I'm in, and that kind of dictates how I behave. Sometimes I work with an assistant. So I work primarily with self-portraits. So I have myself in front of the camera. So sometimes that means 10 seconds run, you have the 10 seconds to get in character and then run back and then do it all over again. So sometimes you get really homed on how to drop yourself into an emotional space so that I can embody a certain mood or a certain characteristic or frame of mind, which then comes through in the image. And then also when I'm working with an assistant, then it becomes different because you have somebody else that's there present and viewing. So I would say that my work is different when I'm working with somebody because it's that interaction between the viewer and the audience. And that's a very different space because they're feeding in, they're present also. So their energy or their presence within the space is actually having an impact on me and how I behave. So then the performance changes. But generally, I'm led by whatever's going on around me, like the wind, the weather, the trees, or whatever happens to be.
Speaking about being led by what's around you, there's a story behind the dress you're wearing. Do you want to tell us a bit about it? Because that will really illustrate, I think, what all of this is about.
So back in early September, I was due to I went for a workshop in Greece, and I have been interested in, I work with changing landscapes, hence the name. So, and recently I have been I lived in Iceland for a time, so you can't not get involved within this the climate change debate that's going on. So when the forest fires happened within Greece in the end of August, I felt that I should maybe try and go and spend a bit of time there and see what was happening. That I wanted to maybe take this character, this lady that I've been working with, that I wanted to take her to the space. And so I gave myself 4 additional days. A friend of mine connected me with a friend of his, and I was invited to go to a small community within North Evia. It's called Limney, and they've lost over 600,000 acres of trees. So they've lost their livelihood. They've lost pretty much everything, and everything what was sustaining their way of life. So they're at the point now where they're not quite sure what's going to come out of that. So I went there for 4 days. I took a car for 3, and my main mission was to go to track down. There was an old olive tree that was 2,500 years old, and that was burnt in the flames, and in a small place called Rovies. So I went there. I went to the tree, and I gathered some of the ashes there from the tree, with every intention of putting them on the prints when I was finally printing whatever work that I was going to make based on these scenarios of these.
So these would be prints in the space,
yeah.
and you were going to use the ashes.
Physical photography prints when it came to exhibition, whenever that was going to be. And it just rained and rained and rained, and I had maybe 90 minutes within the 2 days to work in character. So I did that. I was getting changed in the woods, putting the dress on and everything. And then almost every time I was getting out of the car, it would start to rain again. So I went back to, I was taking that to be a sign. You're not going anywhere. You're not doing this now. And so I got back anyway, got back to the place where I was staying. And I decided that since it was raining anyway, and the ash didn't really stick to the dress unless it was wet, that the most appropriate thing to do was to actually tip the ashes from this tree over the dress and change the character. Because I have been working with these costumed characters now for 6 years, and I had already done a series in the Irish woodlands in May. So to just make that distinction that this was a different story. And so this is more about death, birth, renewal, but it's not only about the landscapes and the devastation and the destruction and the new life that will come from that, but it's also about us coming out the back of COVID. It's also very personal to me. So it's about myself, it's about the collective, and it's about the landscape, which all of us seem to be going through this process at the same time. So I'll be going back actually on Sunday for another.
It's an ongoing project, and you've a GoFundMe operation set up, so people want to engage with your art, they can support you there.
Absolutely.
And I know that for people who make a small donation, and it's not a huge donation, they actually get an art print, isn't that right, as part of the whole process. So people can actually become part of this through the GoFundMe page. Yeah.
I'm giving up my first exhibition of prints to people who donate to the project, and the money that is donated, it puts me there on the ground, allows me to create the work, but it also recirculates money back into the community, because every time I go there, it's going to be about somewhere between 800 and 1,000 euros that's going to be recirculating back within these communities that have now lost their tourism and their.
And as well as your performance art and your photographic art, you although I understand that for the most part they're linked together, you also do classes, you master classes in photography. So people can actually go to one of your master classes and learn how to take photographs, and if I'm correct, they can actually be beginners rather than people who are.
Absolutely, because it's not only the technical skills I teach, it's like there's a whole voice and a whole way to tap into how do you speak with the camera. How do we all speak differently with the camera? And it's about finding that space and bringing people into that space. And that's more than the technical skills.
And it's about seeing as well, isn't it?
It's how we understand life. It's our eyes. Yeah.
And in addition to that, you have another string to your bow, which is you speak at workshops and conferences and so on.
Yeah. I like to light a fire under people and let them know what they're what they're capable of, or gives them an opportunity to think a little differently, so they can reflect differently on their abilities and step forward maybe in a different way.
Now, Jane, as they say, follow that.
Yeah.
Shrinking down into
Don't.
Tell me this: is every day the same for you when you go to work?
I'd love to say so, but no, it's not. Currently, I'm in the throes of motherhood, so I have a 6-month-old and a 3-year-old. So work is juggling. But I wouldn't have it any other way, and I love doing what I do, so it's not a chore. So I'm very blessed that I can do both, and work things around to make things work.
And when children came along, did that change the way you did it change your approach to how you did your work, how you created the pieces, how you responded to customers' requests?
Yes and no. I have a lot less time on my hands, but I have a lot more. I can prioritize things more, and I see the good in a lot of things, and I see the value in family, and the value in gifting. It's not, before I was making new baby gifts, and I was making wedding gifts, and I was, that's how I started, because I wanted to make gifts that, that wasn't on the market. So Mr. and Mrs. a little Lego men, and that's kind of current, and I wanted to have on my wall. But when I now make the baby gifts, I've been there, I've done that, and I appreciate it, and I like sending it out, and an extra little kind of caveat to it, which is important.
John, hardly any day is the same for you, I would imagine, because I know that sometimes you work on pieces of wood and then you put them aside and you go back to them again, and you even when you're making a chair like this one here, that it's a long process. So every day is different, and also you do bespoke pieces.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, no, every day is different, and you'd have to, like, I'm in the kind of business on my own at the minute, so you have to wear a lot of different hats. So yeah, I have bespoke kind of fit out work that I would do along with the furniture and the boxes.
What about you, Monica? Being a small operation, a 1 or 2 person operation, how do you juggle all that? How do you juggle being the salesperson and the production manager and the accountant?
Yeah, well, because it's our business is quite small, it's very manageable, and I take care of the skincare. I work very much in the house. Mauricio's in the workshop. I do the accounts. It's not that hard. I don't find it very hard. I find it's all very easy. My life is great, really.
That struck me this morning when I was looking at a little video on your website. You are the happiest person I've ever seen on their own website, because we all look dour on our websites,
Yeah.
And now Aisling is acting that way, but that's me on my website, and Jane is agreeing with me across the. But you look so happy. You love what you do, don't you?
I do, yeah, I do. And I think it's really important to not take on too much, and to love every minute of your life, because this is it, Yeah,
I remember an old Italian shoemaker said to me once that that's what he loved, that real shoemakers put a piece of their soul into every pair of shoes they made. It's a lovely feeling, isn't it? Yeah.
And I'm blessed because I'm doing something that I really, really love. I'm very passionate about, plants and the healing power of plants, and I'm getting to make a living out of that. So that's wonderful.
Aisling, speaking about that approach and that sort of happiness in the work and that sort of thing, I was quite surprised when I discovered the full range of what you do, but I was even further surprised when I discovered you are very relaxed about it, because some artists are terribly precious. Does that come from a real deep enjoyment of what you do as well?
I think the preciousness is, I've come across those as well many times. Try to avoid them if at all possible. But it's, I think when you're really authentically expressing yourself, no one else is going to be able to do it. So no one else can do what I do. No one else can do what any of us here can do. So I think what's the point of being precious in that scenario? Because we can all only feed into each other's creative processes, and deepen it or develop it,
What would your teenage self say to you if they met you today? John, you
They probably think, I think they'd be glad just to see the direction that I've gone. I suppose it's in some ways just having a furniture business has always been my dream. So maybe a little later than I'd like, but I'm still pursuing it. And they'd probably be saying like, "What's taking you so long?" But yeah, no, I think my teenage self would be happy enough like that I'm still kind of doing what I love and what I'm passionate about.
How many marks would he give you out of 10?
Sure, we'll go to safe 8.
Jane, what about you?
Oh gosh, I would tell myself that it's all going to be okay, because when you're that age, I would never go back to that age again. It was just I'm happy where I think you have to say it's okay and flip it over and tell my daughter that everything's going to be okay, and believe in yourself, and then use your creativity for good and for power and for and expressing yourself, and not to worry so much. Like,
Aisling, what about your teenage?
I think so, yeah. I have a tendency to kind of get sidetracked and kind of go there for 3 years and then kind of go off on another tangent. So, and it's been this last year has been a lot about putting those really looking at I think our practice develops over years. So really looking at that and seeing that there has been like a very defined style, voice, message, and I'm only really kind of cutting it on to what that was like. So, and it was there from the beginning. So it's kind of interesting that things that we did when we were that age are often the things that we come back to, or the things that we're drawn to are still.
Did you find you had to be very determined though to keep that connection alive?
I'm very, I mean, I don't see a lot of people really, like, so I'm kind of constantly working and developing and allowing time. Like, I mean, there's times when I'm not working as well. So it's like there's a natural flow to these things. There's a natural flow to how you create something, and you might take a gap for 2 or 3 years, or you might have children, or you might have something that gets in the way for a while, but even that life experience feeds into it. So I think it's all very organic. And if you allow it to be organic, that's when you really find your niche or find your.
You're nodding there, Monica. Do you agree? What about your teenage self? What would she say to you if she saw what you're doing today?
She was at long last, you've grown up. I was a wild teenager.
Well, that reminds me. Were any of you ever told, would you not get a real job?
Still am.
Yes.
Still am being told that.
You still are being told that. Oh, I don't know. I mean, I'm just looking at the reaction on the screen, some of the comments coming in about the stories and the beautiful products here. I think you've all got a lot to be very proud of, and while I'm sure you're still on a continuing journey, the achievements are quite material here in front of us this evening. Any funny stories?
Oh, you're right.
To you there.
Well,
you volunteered. You immediately reacted there.
Yeah, I should have froze.
You laughed.
I was just like a deer in the headlights. Well, I suppose it's an embarrassing story, but / funny. But I suppose to give the background to the funny story, years ago I used to work with a lad, and he said if you ever came across a problem that you couldn't solve, that the thing to do was to do something completely different. So he said what he would do is say sometimes he'd do a jig or a bit of a dance. So I was stay with me. I was in the workshop one day, and there was no one there. I was on my own, and I was having a problem, and I just couldn't solve it. So for some reason I took his advice, and I just put on a bit of music and was doing a bit of dancing, I suppose, a couple of minutes, and a couple of minutes went by, and then I turned around and I realized that the delivery driver was standing at the door. And I turned around and I seen him, and the worst thing is that he said nothing to me. And I was just saying, will you just laugh or just, and he said nothing for what felt like an eternity. And then he said, and all this time I thought you were in here making furniture. And I heard him, he was laughing the whole way down the yard, and the whole way out in the van he was laughing, like, so that's my funny story.
Jane,
Go for it, Monica.
I have
you
a-
have one.
I have one actually. I just remembered. I mean, I don't know if it's that funny, but just at the Tullamore show one year, I was selling my skincare, and there's always people looking for freebies, you know, at these. So I just looked around in time to see this man putting his finger into the body butter, because the word butter was there, into the body butter and putting it into his mouth.
Oh.
And then he just looked and went,
That
I said, that's not for using. Just remember that.
Did you like the taste of it?
Aisling, on your ventures and travels, there must have been something.
I'm sure there's loads of funny stories, but I think that's probably reserved for those who experienced them. I can't. I mean, I have a kind of a weird sense of humor anyway, so probably not. That funny.
You were talking about freebies or whatever there, and that's I don't mean to use a derogatory term, but I know some of you here this evening are very specialist in the gift market, and you're going to make a gesture for Christmas. Jane, what are you doing?
So every order for the next week is going to be getting a free decoration, handmade decoration with every order. That's me. Yeah.
And Monica, you're doing something?
Yeah. If you spend over €50, I will give a free lip balm. It's all on. You just have to go to the checkout and put in lip balm. The word lip balm.
So that's the code.
That's the code. Yeah.
And Aisling, you have the free print if people contribute to the GoFundMe. And John Farrell is promising that anyone who orders before Christmas doesn't have to go and see him dancing. Down all the years, what was the best bit of business advice you ever got, Monica?
Oh, can I think about that? The best business advice. I would have said to myself all the time. I think sometimes you can be your best advisor. You know, stay small, keep it real. You know, I've never wanted to get too big, neither Mauricio nor I. And I think it's really good advice. Keep it small, keep it real, keep it the way you want it. Don't let it go out of all proportions.
And you must be very pleased to see the reaction through the pandemic in support of local makers and local artisans, and that added value that people recognise in
incredible
in your work.
Yeah. Last year was an incredible year. You know, right up even this year. It's just been since the pandemic happened. It's just it's incredible. They're just buying online.
Jane, best piece of business advice?
What I live by is just being true to yourself. So if you don't respect your own product, then nobody will respect it. So, you know, you've got to have the high standards. If something's not right, I don't send it out. If somebody wants me to do something that I'm not comfortable with, I won't do it. I will kind of steer them to the way I want to do it. That would look good that'll look good at the end product. You know, some people try to put everything into a picture, and it's just too much. You have to try and steer them into getting the thought across without it looking like a piece of cereal. So yeah, just be true to yourself. Have good morals. Use good materials. All my materials are sourced in Ireland. My boxes are sustainable. I ship sustainably. You know, everything that I believe in, and I want to stay true to that. Even though it costs more, I don't care. I want to be proud of what I ship out.
John, what about you?
Yeah, it's probably a simple one, but an old boss of mine used to always say, "You're only as good as your last job." That was sort of his mantra, and it's simple, but it's actually it's quite a powerful kind of statement. Like it's, you know, don't rest in your laurels. Always put in that extra work, and aim for quality rather than kind of taking corners, because that can be kind of a slippery slope. Like, so that's something I always try and keep, just the quality aspect,
And actually, in your artistic practice, have you come across a really good mantra or piece of advice?
I have the perfect story, yeah. In 2006, I did an internship with an agency in New York, and one of the guys, it was a collective of photographers, so many of the photographers were in their 70s and 80s. and these people were amazing. And he would come in and bring croissants and all sorts of things. And so one day he arrived in with Janice Chaplin prints for everybody. And he passed out the Janice Chaplin prints. I was just an intern at the time. And I don't know if he said it to everybody, and I probably suspect that he did, because I think everybody there was likely an aspiring photographer themselves. But he said to make people feel with my images as much as Janice made people feel with their music. And that image hangs somewhere in front of me in my home all the time, and has done since then. And it's just that, and I didn't get it properly until recently, and then I took it a level deeper, and I was like, now now I get you. Now I get you what you mean. Yeah.
And flip the coin over. What's the best piece of advice, we'll start with you, Monica, you could give to your customers? They're a little gem.
I would say to everybody, customers and everybody, that you are what you eat. So I know this is nothing to do with skincare, but it really is to do with skincare. You really should eat properly, and that will come out in your skin, primarily. And then if you have to put something on your skin, keep it natural, keep it plant-based. Nature is there to provide for you.
Jane, advice.
Buy what you love, because surround yourself with items and people that you love, because that's all at the end of the day what matters. What sparks joy. So if you buy my pieces, it makes you smile, and that's my job done.
Lovely.
That gets me into trouble. My sister-in-law sometimes comes in and looks at the art in my house and says, "You won't believe what he bought now."
It wasn't mine.
No, it wasn't mine. No, she likes your one.
But you're happy. You're happy.
Absolutely.
She mightn't be, but you are.
And I never look at the signature on it. I look, do I like the piece? Does it
Does it
engage?
talk to you? Yeah.
John, what about you? Bit of advice to customers, maybe coming to you for a special piece.
I would say it's probably worth the money in investing in a piece, something that will grow in value and something that you'll kind of cherish. Like, I think a really nice piece of furniture adds so much character to your home, and it's something that it's just, it's going to kind of, as the years go on, it'll give you more enjoyment, and as you live with it every day, like, it's something you're going to use and engage every day. So I would say, like, really do the research, like, and invest in a piece. That would be my advice.
Aisling, from an artist's point of view, what would you like to say to customers? Give them to your audience.
Instead of investing in a piece, invest in yourself, and don't let anybody tell you can't do something, and don't talk yourself out of doing something if you've had an idea. Because I don't think any of us would be sitting on this couch if we did, right?
True.
Yeah, very true, very true. I'm also tempted to ask each of you. Maybe I've touched on it a little bit already, but is there somebody in your sphere, or some great maker, creator, or artist that you particularly admire, or that has had a particular influence on your career? John, what about you? You mentioned some of the old craftsmen and the new craftspeople.
Something that probably comes to mind, just as you said it, is I remember being about 22, maybe 23, and there was an exhibition in Collins Barracks up in Dublin, and it was for Eileen Gray, but there was other Irish designers there. But there was a cabinet, I believe it was called Eask by John Lee. He's a furniture maker in Meath. And it just would have had a profound impact on me. There was a beautiful curved front in it. It was a chest of drawers, and it was Irish oak, and he'd fumed it, and he kind of he sandblasted one half while the other half was smooth. And I remember it just kind of made me think, God, look what's possible. It really. And I'd say I was 10 minutes kind of looking at it. I wasn't even sure what exactly it is I was looking at. But it just had such a huge impact on me. And I think it just really inspired me and stayed with me. The possibilities,
Aisling?
I've forgotten the question, sorry.
Impact, somebody who inspired you, an artist, a maker, creator, that you...
I don't think it's a person. I think it's probably nature, and I think it's probably just this connection we have to it, and this harmonious place where we need to go back to, or where we should be, or when we're in that space, like, and living in that more natural and balanced way, even with the cosmetics and that aspect of it. I think that's what, and then life itself, just the journey that we're all on, because it kind of brings us up and down and around and never stops teaching.
Yeah, and I suppose over the last 18 months or so, our gaze was turned back in that direction towards natural things and nature, and enjoying just walks and being in the open air, and then for a time wishing to God we could get out and walk more than 2 kilometres in any one direction. So that's an interesting point. What about you, Monica?
Well, very much like Aisling, Charleville Forest is my total inspiration. Our garden, we have a wonderful garden at the back of our house, and we live at the Gate Lodge going into Charleville. My inspiration is derived from nature, from the plants and all that.
Very good. Very good.
And Janice Chaplin.
And Janice Chaplin. What was the great hit she had?
Oh.
Me and Bobby McGee, wasn't
Oh,
that it?
yeah.
That's my favourite one of her.
Yeah.
Let me have a look at the chat and see if there are any questions coming in here. Enjoying the stories and words of wisdom and banter. No, they're just good wishes to everybody, and an appreciation of the stories and the amazing products, and congratulations on the hard work. Anything else you want to say before we go into a wrap up? You've all got websites, and of course they're very, very important, and websites keep people alive, and we're moving more and more in that direction. We're not necessarily going to lose the high street. It has relocated to local towns and villages, thank goodness. But I know a lot of people will want to talk to you directly as makers and support you directly. So each in turn, give us the title of your website.
Mine is buttonstudio.ie.
eskerdesign.ie.
Lifechanginglandscape.com.
Heartworks-skincare.ie.
And then you have a different one for
the slate.
For Maurizio's work.
Yeah, that is heartworks.ie. Yeah.
Very good. Well, thank you all very much. That was good-natured and good-humoured, and we recovered from the technical difficulties, and we got there in the end. And I certainly enjoyed it, and I hope all our audience did. And thank you to all of you listening in this evening for your kind messages. They're much appreciated. This is the first of 3 of these Meet the Maker events. There's one on Monday night and one on next Thursday, and I hope maybe you'll be able to join us again then. If you want to get some more information, the craftlink.eu website contains a lot more. And of course, it's also the place where you'll find the Craftlink digital catalogue, where you'll get everybody's website details and contact details and a little reminder of the products they do and the wonderful magic they weave. So thank you very much to everybody. Hope you enjoyed the session. Good night to you all.